Hi everyone, this is Rihanna, but you can call me Seren, and welcome back to my studio. So I didn't have much time in the past 2 weeks to just sit down and record at a desk. So there's this artwork that I started way back in September, and I just thought I would finish it digitally. I originally wanted to paint it with either gouache or acrylic gouache or something like that, and I started it. But I just didn't feel confident enough to complete it with real paint because I didn't have that much practice with it. I still don't have as much practice as I would have liked, but it's hard to find the time to just sit down and actually paint, especially with a full-time job and a kid and a whole house to take care of. It's just, there's a lot going on at all times, and it's just easier to sit down with an iPad and draw than it is to get out all the painting supplies. But I'm trying to be better with it, and I'm hoping, my plan is for next week to be able to actually sit down and start a painting. But anyway, I am getting way ahead of myself. So I'm actually glad that I went digital with this piece because I made some changes, a lot of changes that I don't think I would have been confident enough to do traditionally. Well, really, it would have been a huge pain because I would have ended up having to make a million changes, and that's a lot more difficult with paint than it is with digital art. But anyway, despite me hesitating to do it traditionally, honestly, most of the piece came pretty naturally and was relaxing to do. But there were still a few frustrating parts. The first was the planet. I basically fudged around for like an hour before finally figuring out a color and size that I liked for it. I'm really happy with what I ended up with though, because other than the girl and some of the stars at the end, there's no other like bright blue areas. So I think it adds some contrast to the clouds on the bottom left that otherwise would have been pretty bare. Or not bare, but I think with the orange planet, the orange planet stuck out too much and not in a good way, you know what I mean? Like I think the light blue that you'll see later on is a lot more fitting. But another part that was difficult was the pose for the girl. I ended up using pictures of people doing parkour, hardcore parkour, as inspiration because I needed reference of someone leaping through the air from behind, which is incredibly specific. But thankfully, those crazy dudes have some great photographers, and it really was not that difficult to find a good reference once I actually like figured out what to search for. Because you know, first I was like, oh, reference of person from behind jumping, and it was very difficult to find like photos of that. I find it hard to find reference photos of people in general, so if you guys have any good resources, let me know. But I will tell you, if you want pictures of people like midair doing crazy stuff, search up parkour because you'll find some good stuff, I promise you. Oh yeah, and I also only drew one shoe and I copy pasted it to the other foot, so technically she has 2 right feet. I just couldn't be bothered to draw it again. But anyway, so I wanted to talk about inspiration and kind of tie that into style and how inspiration affects style in a way. I'll just start with what inspired me for this piece. So I was inspired by the song Well Give It by Toe Hider. I'll put the title on the screen because it's kind of a weird spelling, but it is an absolute bop and you should definitely listen to it. It's a lot more upbeat than the music that's playing in the background of this video. But yeah, I definitely recommend listening to it. It is so good. And the lyrics are really just colorful and fun. And I love it so much. And for a while, it was my toddler's favorite song too. So it has extra special meaning to me right now. But one of the lyrics in particular that inspired me, it goes, "Imagine shooting out 1 billion beams once every second, hypercolor slipstream." Which is so cool, right? But I wanted to create something with that in mind, especially the hypercolor slipstream, which is what I named this piece, hypercolor slipstream. And I imagined bright neon colors with a person just being rocketed right through space with like clouds and shooting stars and planets and all sorts of particles all over them. I wanted it to be like super busy and colorful, but also harmonious. And that might be part of the reason why it took a while for me to actually like finish this, because I didn't totally know how I was going to make it like chaotic, but organized chaos. But in order to do that, I ended up using a very like specific color scheme, and I really only use, like, there's not that many colors if you count them. Okay, let's count them together. So not including white, and I'm also not going to include the skin color because that's, I mean, I was thinking of making her skin like blue or something crazy, but I decided to just make it human color. So ignore the skin color. But other than like the white and the brown for the skin color, I chose, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's 5 colors in total. But that's how I tried to make it as harmonious as possible, but still like looking chaotic. But I'm pretty proud of myself for doing that. I think in general, I've really been trying to work more with color and make colors like work well together, because in the past, like, I've always wanted to really work with color and do fun color like stuff, because I love it when people make really awesome color choices in their work that's not necessarily realistic, but just like really, I don't know, really creative, and just, I love it. But it's always been really hard for me. I struggled at first with using really desaturated colors, even when I wanted to use super saturated colors. And then I kind of did the opposite, and I just went way too saturated. But now I think I'm finally starting to find a balance of saturated versus more calm, I guess you could say. But I'm pretty proud of myself for how far I've come so far. And I want to like keep this momentum going for the future. So going back to like inspiration, when I was younger, I used to watch so many videos of speed paints on Paint Tool Sci from like the early 2010s of pretty anime girls, and they were always set to really cool anime music, and I was always so inspired by them. I wanted to draw really pretty anime girls too and have the speed paints with the super cool anime music, but I didn't really do that. Somewhere along the way though, there was like this change. I can't pinpoint where it was or how it happened, but I started drawing more from life, like plants, landscapes, animals, especially space, or like how I picture space in my head. I don't think I draw space very realistically at all, but I wish space looked like this. I mean, look, it looks really cool how it is, but if it looked like this, come on, that'd be pretty cool. But anyway, I think that initial like pretty anime girl inspiration is still there in my artwork, even when I don't draw art that has people in it at all. And that's kind of what I think style is when it comes down to it. It's just like an amalgamation of all of your inspirations over the years, and it follows you no matter what like type of art you do, no matter what medium it's in, no matter the subject. I think it's kind of like how you can't really help what inspires you, you just are inspired by things. You also can't really help what your art style ends up becoming. I see a lot of videos about how to find your style and like, oh, you gotta have a style, you gotta find your art style. Here's 10 tips for how to find your style. And it seems to be like super emphasized, especially among illustrators. I don't know if that's the same with like more fine art stuff, like abstract paintings or sculpture or stuff like that, but it seems to be in the illustration circles like the utmost thing that you need to figure out. It's like you need to have your own style. But personally, I don't know if this take is unpopular or if it's, maybe a lot of people feel this way, but I don't think I even tried to find my style. Actually, I never would have guessed that I would make something like what's on the screen now, like something super graphical. Like I really didn't use any shading at all. I only used like white sparkles and colors in different places, to try to like emphasize like this area is brighter, this area might be darker. I was just so interested in more like painterly pieces of art that had like that amazing shading and lighting, and I still love that stuff and I'm still super inspired by it, but it's like my brain had different plans, and so making art in this way just feels more natural to me. It's actually pretty funny because I remember even back in art school, which was like almost 10 years ago now, I was showing sketches to one of my art professors of different illustration ideas that we were going to work on for the entire semester. The class was called narrative painting, and it was a doozy. It was really tough, but I learned a lot from it. And even though I'm getting ahead of myself again, but basically the illustration idea that I chose was very like dark fantasy and very painterly, because I was very into metal back then, and don't get me wrong, I still love metal music. It's mostly what I listen to, but I think my brain was just in a place where I was just feeling dark and moody, very moody. But so I just had those feelings just welling up in me all the time. So what I chose was something like very dark. But what I thought was interesting was the thumbnail that he chose for me, that he like wanted me to do, was more simple, brighter. It had more of a graphic style. It was basically like this like goddess type woman, and she was creating the universe, which is really hilarious because that's exactly like something that I would draw now, like a pretty woman with an amazing dress and like stars and planets and stuff coming out from her. Like that is absolutely something that I would make right now. But at the time I was like, no, what are you talking about? That's not me. And he actually he told me like, this feels more you. And I don't know what he saw in me. It was strange. I don't know, it was very strange, because it's not like he really saw other work that I had done. And I hadn't even done other work similar to this back then. So I don't know, he was a psychic or something. But anyway, it's interesting that like the one that he chose for me was the type of art that I do now. And it's almost as if I was like meant to do this kind of art, if that even makes sense. So anyway, what I'm trying to say is I think people can like force a certain art style, kind of like how you can take singing lessons, for example, to try to improve your vocal range. But no matter what, even if you could sing like 27 octaves, your tone is always going to be there. You can't really do anything about it, because that's just your tone. That is how the voice comes out of your throat. And I think it's the exact same with style, like art style. No matter what you do, like if you sculpt, if you paint, if you write, you're always going to be you in your artwork. And that's going to change because, like, it's going to change slightly because as you grow and you see more art that you like, you're going to get interested in different things. You're going to take inspiration from different places. But it's always going to look like you made it because you made it. You know what I mean? So I just think people put way too much emphasis on finding their style, when really what it comes down to is just continue to learn, continue to find art that inspires you and make art that inspires you. And that art that you make is going to have your touch, and your touch is going to grow. It's going to develop as you just continue growing as an artist in general. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say about the piece and about my soapbox on style and inspiration. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and enjoy the rest of the video, and have a great weekend. Bye! really quick, I wanted to say thank you so much for my very first Patreon sponsors. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, I started a Patreon, so if you want to join, these are the 2 stickers, and there's also a phone wallpaper that you can download. So check it out. I'll have a link in the description, and there's also a link on my channel. So again, thank you so much. Bye!